everyone. So glad that you're here today. If you joined a little bit later from my first request, if you want to open up your chat and put one word in how you might be feeling right now. It can be any word, just one word how you might be feeling right now, just kind of an emotional check-in with yourself. And again, you can send that to just myself or you can put it to everyone, up to you. So I am so pleased to be here with you today. Things that you might need for today's training. If you have 2 sheets of paper or just some notes that you can write on for yourself, or if you just have a scratch sheet of paper, that would be helpful. So today, as our host mentioned, this is normally a really long training and I've condensed it into a short amount of time. So I really appreciate you letting me give you as much information as possible in a short amount of time. So the first thing I want to do with you guys is just acknowledge that you made it here today. And for some of you, that may have been a breeze. And for some of you, that may have taken some time and some effort. Maybe finding childcare, finding the space to set aside for yourself, or even finding an empty room or office space. And so I want to do an activity called a sigh of relief, just to give yourself the acknowledgement and the release of any stress that may have caused. And so everybody else but myself should be muted. And if you're not, go ahead and mute yourself. And I want you to take a big, deep breath in. And I want you to audibly sigh. And hearing yourself sigh and physically feeling yourself sigh signals to the brain and to your body to release stress. And so I want to do one more together. So breathe in and audibly sigh. And again, that's called the sigh of relief. And it's something I always like to do when I'm in a hurry to get somewhere and then I've made it. So I do not take it lightly that you're choosing to spend an hour with me today. And so thank you for your time. So a couple of expectations I want to set so you know what today is going to feel like. One, I am very interactive and energetic, and I hope to give you a lot of information. Please make sure and take care of your needs. The last thing I would want for you is to put off take care of your needs while I'm talking about the importance of taking care of yourself. Next, I ask you to be open-minded because I may give you some ideas that feel silly, out of the ordinary, maybe childish, or even like, how in the heck could that help me? And so I ask you to be open-minded because self-care can look in a variety of ways. And then please stay on mute, but I encourage you to please use the chat button so that myself or our host can assist you, or if you have any questions. I will also ask you to interact in the chat a couple of times, so please familiarize yourself with where that might be. Last, it's important for me to give you information, and I will quickly go through more of an educational part of self-care, but my majority importance is to get to the doing of self-care together today, and also to give you ideas. So I want to get started. So I have a short definition for you on what self-care is so we can all be on the same page. Self-care is filling your life with ideas, with activities in a variety of areas in order to actively take care of your mind, body, heart, and spirit. And there is a variety of ways in how to do that listed in the bullets below. But what might be some of those emotional and mental barriers? I think the most common ways that we hear is feeling guilty or selfish for taking time for yourself, but also believing that self-care might not be important, or maybe I don't need it, like I'm good, it's okay. And then also feeling overwhelmed, like when am I supposed to do this? I already have so much on my plate already. Some of the more tangible barriers, and also you guys will get all of the slides for this, so please don't feel like you have to write everything down that I'm saying or worry about me not going over all of the slide bullet points. So some of the more tangible things that we might be experiencing is not feeling like you have enough time in your day because you're already doing long work hours, children's activities, or chores when you get home. And then there's those big major life experiences. I'll put off self-care because this is going on and then I'll worry about it later. Maybe you're experiencing a death or loss. Maybe that's due to COVID or a loss of a job, or maybe even a death of a family member or even a pet. Pets are very significant losses for us. Maybe there's an illness, maybe you have a significant health problem, Or maybe you're dealing with COVID post symptoms, or you just got diagnosed, or you got the vaccine and you're worried about what might be going on in your body post that vaccine. Just relationship difficulties, breakups, divorce, separating, or even starting couples counseling is a major change. Maybe even legal difficulties, so a messy divorce, CPS, or even just a general court case that might be brought about by yourself or someone else for a variety of issues. So I want to come back to some of those barriers or those things that might be going on in your life and kind of give you like a lens to look at what you might be all going through. So you might be experiencing stress in the moment, but to look at it in a whole larger view. So every day our ongoing stress includes our work, our home life, any organizations we belong to, and also managing our health. Then we add on this giant lens of the pandemic, and that adds extra news exposure, maybe deaths that you've experienced, concerns about yourself or other people's health, extra grief just seeing death and hearing about death. And then we add on a lot of emotionally charged events from the past 12 months. The death of George Floyd, lots of protests, natural disasters, bombings, a charged election season, also the attack on the Capitol last week. Just reading that list, that is a lot going on to have in our mind and in our body. So what is that stress and how does that impact us? Well, in our body, that can come out as headaches, just fatigue, muscle tension, or even sleep problems. Well, in your mood, you can have anxiety, restlessness, struggle with motivation, feeling overwhelmed, or just general irritability. And then with your behavior, you can find yourself over or under eating, having anger outbursts, finding that you're struggling with your sobriety or using tobacco or drugs or alcohol more than you would before. And also withdrawing from social connection, which is already so difficult right now because we're having to distance ourselves from others physically. I also want to acknowledge that there's many of us that are part of a healthcare field, a mental health field, our first responders, are part of faith communities supporting people, or even our daily caregivers for children or elderly. The side effects of supporting someone, whether in your work or daily life, is hard. You can feel unprepared, or seeing someone else in pain or having difficult feelings is difficult to watch. You can feel like you're not doing enough. And those heavy feelings are hard because they trigger things in yourself that you feel like you don't have the time to take care of. And so I think it's really important to acknowledge those. So I share all of those things on the impact of stress because if we can't find ways to daily take care of our self-care and combat some of those stress things on our body, mood, and behavior, then it's just going to keep impacting us worse and worse. And so if we can find ways to add self-care into our life, these are some of the beautiful benefits of self-care. It improves our overall health. You have increased joy, increased productivity. You're able to care for other people better because your cup is full and you have more energy, whether that's your job or your home life. You also have less depression and anxiety feelings. You feel less burnout, so you can do your job longer and healthier. You have less stress and there's less effect of disease, injury, or trauma. So if you're in a better place when you get sick, that sickness is going to have less of an impact on you. So I warned you I was going to go really fast on the education piece, but I hope I've convinced you that all of those benefits totally outweigh the reasons that self-care is difficult. And I know when I look at those, I'm like, yes, sign me up, please. Let's do some self-care. I want to feel better and feel joyful and motivated and have energy and be able to care for other people. Now, I can't promise I'm going to take away all of your life stresses, but I do promise to give you some tangible ways to be able to integrate self-care in a very easy and manageable way. And so while in the definition there were about 6 different categories of how to make sure and hit self-care, I do want to talk about self-care in terms of physical activity, creativity, and mindfulness and grounding, just because I feel like they are very approachable ways to look at ways to integrate self-care. So Remember, I warned you that we would be doing some interactive activities and then I'd be giving you some tips. So I want you to be open-minded as we move forward together. So our first activity that we're going to do together, I call animal poses. If you are familiar with the organization Pose Place that I work with, we have a video on our social media on Facebook that has a more lengthy version. I'm going to stay seated for the presentation and for this activity to show it to you, but you're welcome to stand up if you'd like to move around for a very short bit for this. And basically all I want you to do is lift your arms up and have them tall like a bear ready to attack. So your arms are stiff, your hands are stiff, and count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Now I want you to loosen them and flap your arms like a bird soaring through the sky. So if you see my arm is very loose and flapping. And again, I was counting 1, 2, 3 in my head. So again, you don't always have to be a bear, stiff and hard, and then a bird flapping in the sky. But what I was trying to illustrate for you is the tension and then the release of your arms. This can be done with your hands, tensing and then releasing, or your shoulders, tensing up and then releasing. So finding, a lot of times this can be called a progressive muscle relaxation or just muscle tension and release. So finding ways to give that release of stress in your physical body is really important. So again, I gave it to you in a fun way, but there are very easy ways to do this, just like tensing your hands and letting go. Tensing your hands and letting go. You can do that while you're watching television. So talk about a bite-sized tip. That's something that you could integrate even later tonight when you're watching your shows. So our next activity is called space writing. And for that activity, I want you to put your finger in the air and we're going to be writing in the space in front of you. You're going to write the numbers 1 through 15 in the air when I say go, and your goal is to try to write them faster than me. So my video is pinned for you. So hopefully you can see me and try to compete with me on your screen next to the PowerPoint. So I'm going to count to 3 and then you're going to write the numbers as fast as you can. 1, 2, 3, go. I hope someone beat me. If you did, congratulations to you. So again, that exercise is called space writing, and I have everyone do that exercise because being physically active in your body, we're doing physical activity, doesn't have to be just lifting weights or going on a run or doing yoga. You can be creative with how you are physically active and moving your body. And so doing that little activity with your hands is, fun if you have children, but you don't necessarily have to do that at home. It's just being more open-minded to what that might look like for yourself. But I do have many people who I have worked with at Pose Place and on that do like to do space writing at home. So I will leave that with you. So our last one that we'll do for physical activity is a stretching exercise. And so again, if you would like to stand up and move to the side of your screen, you are welcome to. I will model it seated so that everybody can see. And again, I like to do things and explain them in a fun way so that if you are trying to do this with maybe your family or you're trying to explain it to someone else that you might be working with, I try to use language that anyone can understand. So I'll be using animals as examples, but still the same exercises you can do without utilizing the animals. So the first stretch, I want you to be able to someone said they can't see. If other people can't see me, let me know and try to fix that. So the first exercise is to think of this giraffe and the long neck. So I want you to reach your arms up high and kind of think about like stretching when you're tired. And so reach them up high, and your hands, think about trying to get leaves on a tree. And just try to reach them as tall as you can. And then I want you to let your arms hang loose like a monkey swinging from the trees. And then we're going to go back to the giraffe. I like to alternate on the second one to try to get as tall as I can with my hands. And then again, hang like a monkey. Letting your arms fall to your side, swinging back and forth. Next, elephants have those nice thick trunks. And so put your hands on your trunk and twist it back and forth to release some of that pent up tension. You can look past your shoulder, get your neck involved. And our last one, this big, beautiful bird is circling around the rainforest. So kind of an homage to that in a way that feels comfortable to you. Go ahead and circle your neck and head in some very gentle and light circles. So feel free to add any other movements as you kind of come back to our training space. So I want to go over some other physical activities that might be physical in nature or actually moving your body. So changing clothes is a physical act that people may not think of. It's a great way to transition your time. Maybe you're working or you did a really large activity. And so just changing into something comfortable can make yourself physically relax. Or maybe just putting on something comfy, like some fun socks, can also be a great physical activity. Also, drinking water. A lot of people may not think about hydrating as a self-care activity, but making sure that you have a lot of, making sure you hydrate enough is a part of making to take care of yourself physically, and most of us do not hydrate enough. One way that I have found to be able to hydrate easier, or that inspires me to hydrate more, is having a fun cup. And so if you have a cup near you, go ahead and take a sip. I find that it helps me drink more water or liquid throughout the day. So hugs. Hugs are very powerful, and they increase endorphins in us and make us feel those happier emotions inside. Hugs can be a lot difficult during this time of COVID. And so there's a lot of research that even just giving yourself a hug, and you're welcome to do one right now if you want to, it can increase your mood, it can increase your self-compassion for yourself, it can increase your sense of safety, and it can relieve pain. So this may feel really silly to just hug yourself, but I know the longer I sit here and hug myself, I'm like, okay, maybe this is nice, you know? I wish I could have a hug from insert X person, but you know, this is nice to kind of just hold myself too. So I encourage you to hug yourself. You know, it only takes a couple seconds. You know, I sat here for maybe 15 seconds giving myself a hug. You can insert that into your day. So naps, of course, would take a longer period of time in your day and are maybe a more luxury for self-care. This community that I'm a part of, this one person, she calls it a bed day, where you just lay in bed and let your body kind of relax and take care of itself. I love that. So one accommodation I've made to that is do a bed hour. Like I can't take a whole day to just lay in bed sometimes, but maybe I can find an hour to just lay in bed. Maybe I'm reading, maybe I'm just closing my eyes, maybe I'm watching a TV show, but I'm just letting the bed envelop me and relax my body. So I encourage you to try that. So practicing posture. A lot of times we're at our desk chair and we're hunched over our keyboard, or we're watching TV at night and we're relaxed back. But the more you can try to get your back up straight, the less tension you're bringing to your neck and to your back muscles. And so while it is a difficult habit to bring upon, it is a helpful one. And if you add in stretching, like we did with the animal stretches, or whatever way stretching you have found is helpful for you, it's a way to combat any posture you may be having over the computer and things like that. Sleep hygiene. Sleep is equally as important as eating and drinking water, and maybe not something you would think of in terms of a physical self-care. So think about, is my room dark enough? Is it cold enough? Do I actually feel comfortable in my bed? And if you can't answer all of those things, maybe think about, how can I alleviate one of those at a time? You don't have to take on all of these suggestions at one time. It's about, how can I think about one of these things at one time? And then last, just spending time outside. Getting in vitamin D. Doesn't mean you have to go take a walk. Doesn't mean you have to be out there for an hour and a half. Just being outside. I try to water my flowers every morning. It takes 5 minutes. But I'm always trying to get vitamin D in a short amount of time if I can't do something larger. So some other examples that are on here is laughter. Laughter is a very physical sensation. You can feel your stomach moving, sometimes your chest moving. So seek out those people who make you laugh. Even if you can't be with them physically, call them, text them, ask them to tell you something that happened in their life recently, or send you a funny meme or GIF if that's something that you guys exchange back and forth. Also, on the physical side, a lot of people think about exercise in terms of like it has to be a big thing. But if exercise is something that you're starting out with, you can start small with like a stress ball. Do this during a Zoom meeting. If you have one near you that you've never used, you could be doing it during this training. Or even small Play-Doh. You can just manipulate Play-Doh, and that is working the muscles of your hand. Exercise can look simple, or we can do something more like running or yoga or things like that. So I hope I gave you some tips in terms of that. If you want to add more to the chat, I appreciate what's been shared so far. I love watching funny videos that make me laugh. I have a coworker that she and I share back and forth all the time. So we're going to move into a couple of creativity activities that we're going to do together. We're not going to spend too much time here. So if you have your sheet of paper, I would love you to grab that. I'm going to use a Post-it just so that you guys can see it better. And you need a pen. But really you can use anything. It could be just the side of your paper or any type of writing utensil. And what I'm going to ask you to do is doodle. Like think about middle school, elementary school, passing notes, doodling on the side when someone's teaching you, doodle. So that's like polka dots, lines, writing a name, all fun and cutesy. This is not art. This is doodling. And so I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to just doodle on either your piece of paper or just the scratch edge of your paper. So ready, go. Take about 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. So here's mine. So I love doing this activity, and I usually give myself maybe 60 seconds or less, so that whenever maybe I get an intense number of emails or I have so many things on my to-do list and I don't know where to start, if I just do a short activity that can kind of give me a mental break, then it resets me so that I can try to do either tackle the emails or start the first step on my to-do list. So next, I want you guys to also, you can flip your sheet of paper over if you used that piece of paper. And what I want you to think about is a place that makes you feel safe, calm, comfortable, warm, or at ease. So this is an activity that we do a lot with our participants when they are thinking about the scene of the death or when they were told the death has occurred. And so I think this is really applicable whether you have experienced a death recently or in the past, as well as just thinking about us being in this collective pandemic. it is heavy to think about that over and over all of the time, and the news does not let us forget that. So that is something that is definitely in our face all of the time. And so having an image to bring into your mind to give you a break that invokes calm, comfort, ease, peace is a very valuable tool. And so I do want to add that a lot of people think creativity and art are equal, and I do not believe that is the case. I think art is a part of creativity, but really creativity is just looking at things in a different way, and that might include doing art, but it also may just be finding different ideas and ways to do things. And so when we do this activity, we ask people to think of a place that they have either been or an idea that they create that, as I said, evokes calm, comfort, safety, or peace. And so if you have an idea that comes to your mind, I want you to write it down on your piece of paper. And then I want you to start writing some descriptive words of it. If you have some time later after this presentation, I encourage you to draw it. What I always say is you don't need to do a Pablo Picasso, you just need a you original. And when you draw it, it makes you create that image in your mind so much stronger than just thinking of the image. So some examples might be a vacation to the beach that you always took with your family, and your image is the waves lapping on the shore and the sun coming up each morning, and that's your image. Or maybe you've always wanted to own a farm, and that's not a goal that you've always had, and waking up in the morning and seeing all your animals, that's your image. Or maybe it's just clouds, and the idea of seeing a bunch of clouds in front of you is peaceful and calm. So this doesn't have to be a real image. It's just whatever pops in your mind that evokes feeling peaceful and calm. So again, write down some ideas for yourself and maybe some descriptors for it. For myself, my safe place is picturing the back of a couch with the back of my head and my two best friends, and we're just being there together. We're not necessarily doing anything. It's just seeing us all together, sitting on a couch being with one another. And when I think about that, and I've drawn it many times, so it's like burned into my mind, I can instantly feel whenever I'm sad or anxious or worked up or things like that. So I hope this is a helpful activity for you to maybe expand upon at a different time. So some different activities that you can do related to creativity is cooking and baking. And you may not think of that as creativity, but you're using things in a different way. And think about all of those recipes that you tear out of magazines, or maybe a cookbook that you haven't used in a while. I know I bought this cookbook years and years ago, and I never cooked it. So when the pandemic started, I vowed to cook a recipe from it at least once a week until I had cooked maybe 10 recipes from it. Well, clearly I made a good purchase. It was a really good cookbook, and we made some really yummy food. And so it really encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone of the recipes that I'm more comfortable with. And it was a great way to use something that I loved. And so I encourage you to dust off those cookbooks that you haven't used in a while, or that you haven't used yet, or recipes that you've torn out. Journaling is something that a lot of people would like to do, and not everybody actually initiates doing, because sometimes it feels overwhelming. You feel like you have to have ideas of what you're going to journal about, or a long period of time. And so some things to think about are, you can do it on your phone. You can use a little note tab on your phone to make it easier, so you can do it anywhere. You can use a timer. If you only have 5 minutes in your day that you feel like you can dedicate it first to self-care, only write for 5 minutes and use a timer. When it's done, it's done. You don't have to continue writing. I started doing journaling at the beginning of this year, and I buy really pretty journals, and I do 1 page a day. That's it. And it has prompts already in there for me. So it's not like I have to come to this time with what I want to write about. And it's been really helpful for me to think about different ideas that maybe I don't think about on a daily basis. So organizing and decluttering, I'm not talking about going like to your whole house Marie Kondo or the home edit, which I do love, but that's not necessarily manageable all the time. But even if you just pick one thing, like maybe your purse or a bathroom drawer or one box, if you can organize a small space, sometimes that can help you organize your thoughts or your emotions better. And it can start you off on a better track than when you were overwhelmed before. So sometimes it's just a really good starting off place. So singing and humming, singing is a way for you to be creative with what's coming out of your body audibly. You don't have to be a good singer, but also the act of singing and humming stimulates your vagus nerve, which is a nerve from your cranium down to your hips. And when you practice stimulating that vagus nerve, it helps you come out of that fight or flight easier. And fight or flight is what brings upon that stress into our body and mind. And the more quickly we can come out of it, the healthier our body's going to be. So singing and humming is very important for us. Arranging flowers. So again, this is one that does require some cost, but I find can take a very small amount of time. So every 2 weeks, I will buy some flowers from the grocery store and arrange them and put them by my bed. So it takes maybe 15 minutes on the front end, then I enjoy them for 2 weeks every day. So again, take some time to put into your schedule on one day, but then I get to enjoy it every day. That's part of my self-care. So painting in watercolors, again, may feel overwhelming or may feel like a very messy endeavor. One thing that I've found that I really enjoy are these paint by sticker books. I have one that's like famous paintings, and I just got this one for the holidays. And they have pages with different stickers, and they become animals. And so it's a very messy way to still incorporate creativity and painting into a very user-friendly way. And for those of you that either work with or have kids, it's also a great tool for them as well. Last thing on this slide that I want to mention is scrapbooking and collages. I think all of us picture scrapbooking as like this big thing where you have to have a lot of supplies. It could just be as simple as using pictures that you have around your house that are printed and making notes about them and putting them into a journal or notebook that you paste the photo and put some information or details around them, and really making it a little bit more meaningful than just having loose photos. So take that as you want. So some other ways that you could be creative that aren't on this slide include taking a different route on your walk. Or I saw someone mentioned essential oils. You could make your own blend of essential oils. I think that's a great idea. Just taking photos of something that stands out to you in your day is very creative. Adding a statement piece to what you're wearing. I know that may seem silly, but no matter what you wear each day, if you add a statement piece that makes you feel good about yourself. I have these really pretty crystal bracelets, and even if I'm wearing a t-shirt, I pick out bracelets that match my shirt just because they make me feel good and they make me feel like me. And so that's part of what I've incorporated into my self-care. And also using color. When I have to use pens, I do, but when I can use markers or colored pens, I absolutely do. Someone asked about the creating a word art or list. So sometimes this is called a wordle. So if you want to think about like a topic that is important to you, so maybe gardening or horseback riding or music, think about all of the words that are related to that, and you could just write a list of what all of those words are, and you could put it into, a fun and exciting way, or just writing the list could be what's helpful for you. A wordle is kind of the fancy word for it, where it's like in different sizes and shapes and kind of comes across one another. So that's something that you could use if you Google a website, and that could kind of make it for you, where it makes it a little bit more artsy that you could print. Make sure I got all the questions. Okay, so we're going to move into grounding and mindfulness. The one thing that I want to mention is a lot of people are aware of the word mindfulness, but maybe not the word grounding. And so I kind of want to break them down a little bit. So grounding is at the very basis of what many people think mindfulness is. So grounding is being in the moment without judgment. And then mindfulness is taking that a little bit of a step further. So mindfulness is being in the moment without judgment, and then being aware of what you are experiencing either internally or externally. And so to give you an example, grounding would be maybe I'm worried and I'm in my mind and I'm talking in my presentation, and then I stop and think, I am here presenting to the Hope and Healing Center in our community. And if I'm going with mindfulness, then I think more like, what am I actually experiencing in this moment? I'm looking at my computer screen. I see a lamp. I hear my fan running. My feet are touching the ground. My heart's running fast because I'm really excited to talk to you guys about self-care. So it's being more aware of what's going on within me and within my surroundings. So I hope that makes sense. We're going to do a couple of activities related to grounding and mindfulness. Most of them are on the grounding end, so helping you be more in the moment through different activities. So the first two are different breathing activities. And so for the first one, I'm going to hold up this square just so that you can see it, but you don't need one whatsoever. It's called 4-second breaths. A lot of times it will be called square breathing, just to help people be able to count easier. And then also it's taught to many military branches and called tactical breathing. So in its essence, we're going to breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and then hold again for 4 seconds. So I invite you to do that with me twice, and I will count along for us. So take a big deep breath in. 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out. 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in. 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out. 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. So again, I like to use a square just to help myself focus on actually moderating my breath for this exercise. Not all breathing exercises are about the breath moderation. You can use your computer screen, you can use a phone to do that. And then also I love doing this in the car. It's my favorite breathing exercise for the car because I can use my windshield. It's not exactly a square, it's more of a rectangle, but it's great for when you're in a hurry trying to get somewhere, if you are catching traffic, or if there are not kind drivers near you. So I definitely recommend that. So for our next one, I want you to put your hands in front of you and picture that you are holding a ball of some kind. You know, it could be whatever your favorite kind of sport may be, maybe, you know, a baseball, basketball, beach ball, whatever your heart desires. I'm going to go with a basketball so you guys can see me best. And what I want you to do is just focus on your hands. So your hands and my breath. So when we breathe in, your hands are going to expand. And when we breathe out, your hands are going to contract. So we're going to do that a couple of times together. So go ahead and hold up your hands and let's breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. So I like ball breathing because there's something when you're doing it on your own about the rhythmicness of it that is very soothing also, in addition to helping your body breathe. For those that have or work with children, a Hoberman sphere is also really helpful to help them practice breathing. So it, you know, breathe in and breathe out. And because it's fun to look at, they're more willing to practice versus just holding their hands in the air. And, you know, I just got this for like $7 on Amazon, so they're very easy to come by. And someone mentioned something great in the the chat, you don't have to just use the square. You can use pretty much any shape to do breathing. So like our logo at Bo's Place is a house with a sun. So we do the house as breathing. So like breathing in the side, up the roof, down the side, and at the bottom of the house. And we teach people with breathing that way also. One other breathing exercise, the ball is called a Hoberman sphere. I'm not great at spelling, so I would not be able to spell it for you. But if you look up some iteration of that spelling, I guarantee you'll be able to find it. One other resource for people that have children or work with children and your goal is to integrate self-care into your whole family's practice. This is a great book called Alpha Breaths. It uses each letter of the alphabet with a different exercise for practicing breathing. It's very fun and user-friendly, and I think it's a great tool if you want to incorporate it into your family's practice or into your supporting role in your job. And to make sure I showed you everything I had for that. So one more activity, the book's called Alpha Breaths, one word. So like alpha, like the alphabet, breaths. So one more activity before the next slide. I want to do this activity called Loving Touch. And so to get prepared for that, I want you to rub your hands together for 10 seconds vigorously, and I'll count for us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And when you stop, you can decide to put your hand on your neck or your cheek. So I'm going to switch hands. And then your other one, you can put on your heart. But I'm going to encourage you to put it just under the hem of your shirt so you can truly feel the warmth of your hands. And then I encourage you to look down. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes and just listen to my voice. We're going to say 3 statements together and take a couple of breaths. But right now, just focus on the warmth of your hands. Take a deep breath in. Remember, everyone is on mute, so feel safe to repeat out loud after me. I am safe. I am here in this moment. I am okay right now. Take a deep breath. Repeat again. I am safe. I am here in this moment. I am okay right now. Take one last deep breath. And come back to our training space. So for Loving Touch, it hits on a lot of different points of giving you the physical comfort of kind of almost like a small embrace, but also you're saying the comfort statement or to yourself, as well as taking the deep breath. So it hits on multiple points that are really helpful. So after we kind of got all in, I'm going to kind of spice things up a little bit with one last grounding mindfulness activity that happens to be one of my favorites. So if you have your last sheet of paper, or if you've used both of the fronts, or just wherever you can write a short little list, I'm going to ask you to write as many animals as you can in 20 seconds. Spelling does not count, especially when we're doing self-care. And I want you to start now. Okay, stop. Go ahead and count up how many you have. So this activity is called categories. It's a very strong mental grounding activity. I normally would do it with myself or a client or participant for like 1 minute or 3 minutes at max. And the goal is to pick different categories whenever you need a mental or emotional break. So if I'm worried about something that happened in the past, or I'm worried about something that might happen in the future, this is a great activity to do just to kind of break that worry or anxiety. Or we talk about it a lot with our participants who have had a death, because they'll ruminate on what happened with the death or what they could have done differently. And to just give them a 1 minute break where they're not thinking about that is a true gift. So even though it feels silly, it works. I have done this hundreds of times, sometimes every day with participants, and every time it works to give you a 1 minute break. The one caveat I would give you is do not do finite groups like states or presidents, because that can evoke more stress because you're trying to think of what you have forgotten instead of just trying to see how many can I get before the time is up. And again, I encourage you to use a timer. So moving into our last kind of area with some ideas and tips, we talked about using a comfort statement. So that could include things like quotes, or kind of like our loving touch activity. I am safe, I am here, I am okay. I love having quotes on my desk. And as you see behind me on my walls, so I keep a box of quotes on my desk and kind of change them out all the time. So right now this one says, when I make joy a priority, brilliant ideas will come naturally, support will surround me, and movements will form. So a mantra, for those that aren't sure what it is maybe a saying that you say to yourself that helps you when maybe you're feeling a big emotion. So like my personal mantra that I'll say or remind myself to say is, there's no point in worrying about it till it's time to worry about it. I know what we talk about with our bereaved many times is maybe there's something that your person who died always said, like, you know, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, or when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, or when God closes a door, he opens a window. And sometimes using their saying and turning that into your mantra can be really comforting. So thinking about that also. So I saw some people mentioning rocks or a pocket rocks. That can be really a big comfort stone to keep in your pocket. The best thing is it's small and portable. So I have lots of rocks as well as crystals that are really great to keep in my pockets or just keep around my home as a grounding element to be able to touch or kind of manipulate in my hand. Also, if you've added walking into your life in the pandemic time, maybe just finding a rock that stands out to you on your walk, or picking up one from your travels in the future. So some other things I want to give you in terms of ideas is especially related to mindfulness, is use your 5 senses, because that will easily bring you into the present moment. And many of them can evoke those feelings of calm, comfort, and safety. So to give you some more examples, so for taste, maybe you want to drink something warm, like tea or coffee, or some hot water with lemon, or maybe something with a strong taste like mints. I know when I do support groups at Bo's Place, I'll keep mints on my desk so that if a story is really triggering something for me, I can just pop in a mint to bring me back to this moment and remind me I'm not in their story. I'm here in this space. For smell, essential oils are a big one for me, as well as lighting a candle. For feel, cozy blankets, very important, as well as a heating pad would be an idea for that. The warmth of a heating pad is very comforting. If you think about back in the olden days, they used to put a hot water bottle in the bed to make people feel more comfortable and swaddled when they got into a bed. So heating pads are very nurturing. For hearing, playing music that you love or playing a chime can be very supportive. Or seeing, a great thing for adults and children is a snow globe. And just watching the snow settle and letting that bring you to the moment to be here right now. Or just items around your home that bring something that makes you smile or remember with fondness. This little llama was in that picture a moment ago, and whenever I see it, I think about mission work that I've done in Bolivia at this orphanage. And so it always brings me into this present moment with a smile on my face, no matter if I'm stressed. So now I want to talk about how do you take all these different ideas that I've given you, or the things that you already know that you could be doing, and put some intentions around it. So this handout will be a part of your presentation packet, and I really encourage you to take some time to fill it out. So you'll see the 6 different areas from our self-care definition are here with ideas, but also the chart has things for 1 to 5 minutes, which I really encourage you to put the most ideas possible, because that's what's gonna feel manageable and realistic. And then there's the 10 to 60 minutes. Those are gonna be the things that maybe once a week or once a month or twice a month, you're gonna be able to feel like you can do. I think it's really important to remember that you need things that you can do in the moment when you are feeling stressed, sad, overwhelmed, lonely, confused. So maybe that's the 60-second doodle we did. Maybe that's stretching. Maybe that's touching the comfort rock. Maybe that's taking some deep breaths. But also finding things that you can do daily to just sustain yourself with a self-care practice is important. So maybe that's doing the 1 page in your journal, or lighting a candle whenever you start work for the day. One that I started this year was I wanted to read more physical books. So I started reading 10 minutes a day. I got a bird feeder for my birthday. So my recent book is reading all about the birds I'm seeing. So I knew that I couldn't guarantee I could read for long periods of day because of my schedule, but I could fit in 10 minutes a day. And so I have been reading 10 minutes a day for several months now, and that feels very manageable to me and has become a big priority. The other note I would give you, and when you take some time to set your intentions, is also think about how you can reframe things that you were already doing. So chores are a part of our life and maintaining our homes and households. So you do the laundry, you do the dishes, but how can you turn that time into a time for yourself? So maybe when you do the dishes, you put in some headphones and listen to your favorite music or a podcast. Or maybe when you're folding the laundry, you call that friend or that family member you haven't talked to in a long time, or you watch a show that you have fallen back on seeing current episodes. So figure out how can you add things that are self-care to make that an enjoyable time versus another to-do that adds more stress. I also acknowledge that we are in a very tech-infused world, and so I want to share some different apps and podcasts and tools with you guys. So for meditation and mindfulness, as well as some children's meditation apps, here's a couple of lists. I have some screenshots to go into a little bit more detail on a couple, but I'm not going to go over all of these. So on the left-hand side, we have daily meditation reminders. I make sure to highlight this one because it is the most easy way to instill meditation into your life. It used to be called 7 seconds, and when you download the app, you can set a timer that you get that little red number on your app, and it gives you a prompt every day to meditate on. So the idea is you take a deep breath, you read the prompt, think about the prompt in that moment, and then smile. There was your meditation. So for a couple of years, that's what I did every day to kind of begin my meditation practice. On the right-hand side, if you're looking to kind of expand that meditation practice, this is the Meditation Mini podcast, and it's very bite-sized. I'd say they're anywhere between 4 to 15-minute meditations. It's a great way to expand kind of a smaller meditation practice. And then my favorite app that I use for meditation is Insight Timer. And also I have no tie to any of these products or anything, just from personal experience of lots of self-care things. I'm sharing what I find is helpful. So on the far left picture, if you press the word guided in the app, and then you press 5 minutes in the middle one, there are literally thousands of meditations in between 5 to 1 minute. There's a 2-minute meditation that I listen to every day just because it really gets me going. I love it. It always centers me. And so I have found that to be super manageable to incorporate into my life. And if I have time for more meditation, that's great, but I always do 2 minutes a day. And so as a mental health clinician, I can tell you, I do 2 minutes a day at minimum. That's it. So some other ones for people that love coloring or art, there's some great apps for that, but I think you really have to find what feels best for you on that. I like the more tangible aspects of coloring, but I have tried these apps before. And then for general self-care, we have morning pages and worry dolls that I want to highlight. For those that are not familiar with worry dolls, it's a Guatemalan tradition where you tell the doll your worries and you put them under your pillow at night and they take away your worries. That's what the tradition says. So this is an app where you tell each doll you're worried and you can even update it on your worry. And it's just a beautiful kind of transition to making it into modern times that I think children and adults alike can really get behind in a tech easy way to incorporate. So the app is called Worry Dolls. And then Morning Pages is the one on the right hand side, and it's a way to not use your notes app for journaling. You can just use the Morning Pages one. For those that are working to make better sleep hygiene, there are some sleep story apps that I really, really love using. And then also some sound apps. Rain Rain on the far left is my favorite for sounds. In the middle is Audible. So if you already listen to podcasts, they have free sleep stories in addition that you don't have to pay for. And then Get Sleepy on the far right is definitely my favorite for sleep stories. So on our online portal for Bo's Place, there are some resources for self-care in the English and then adult section, and the National Alliance for Grieving Children in their education tab. If you look in between March and May, there are 2 podcasts specific to self-care. So these are just some gentle reminders for you. And basically overall, I just want to remind you, self-care can be anything. It will take time for you to practice. You will probably need to reschedule and revisit what works for you. And at the end of the day, you are worth taking the time for self-care.